Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. What is today's date? The 16th, February the 16th. We're already past halfway through February. Hi, everybody. Y'all come on in and say hello to everybody. If you're here, it would be great to hear from you. If you're watching on the replay, comment down below and say hello. Tell me where you're from. It's kind of a sad day today, y'all. We have a sick chicken. Uh-oh. I thought I turned that down. It's kind of a sad day. We have a sick chicken. Hi, everybody. And actually, we lost our favorite chicken the other day. It's so sad. Hi, everybody. Come on in. I have my fabrics came in from Marshall Dry Goods. I'm going to show you those for the mystery quilt. And other than that, I don't really have a lot to talk about. I really just want to catch up to see what y'all are doing. Pam, you have your flannel shirt on too? It's a little chilly in here. I think if the sun would just come out for 3 days straight, I would be so happy. I'm going to tell you what, it has been just overcast and dreary outside. It seems like 5 weeks now. There might be a sunny day mixed in here or there, but they're few and far between, and I'm about over it. Thank you, Robin. Yeah, we think we've narrowed it down to mites. And because it's been so wet, like it's just rained, like every other day it rains, and it's just not sunny to dry up their run. And so we brought in some hay. And evidently, mites love hay. They come in with it. We brought it in. Oh. Now we know. So we're pulling all the hay out today, or Harlan's out there doing it right now. Pulling it out, spreading diatomaceous earth on everything, dusting the chickens with diatomaceous earth. And we hope that we've caught it in time for, it's one of our youngest chickens, Patches O'Houlihan. She's not eating. And we hope we've caught it in time that we can save her. Having chickens is a lot of work, isn't it? Hi, everybody. Who is gearing up to do the mystery quilt? March the 8th is when that starts. March the 8th. Let me pull up my calendar. That is not that far away. 1, 2, 3. 3 weeks. Holy cow. Mimsy, I have not heard that. Let me write that down because y'all always have some really good ideas, and we'll look into where would we get that. Yeah. I'm going to look into it. If we could just get like some sunny days and just have it dry up outside, it would be fantastic. Ooh, Norma, you're going to get started on the mystery quilt. Bernice, Debbie. That's awesome. Robin, you are. Yay. I've been doing some paper pieces. If you missed it, I showed this video yesterday. Patreon members, if you haven't checked out Patreon in a while, this was your free pattern for February. I finally made the video and posted it last night. Paper piecing, I used my light pad. So for those of you asking, how do you use your light pad when doing foundation paper piecing? I did a demo in this video. If you haven't seen it, you want to go check that out. I think that's the way I'm going to start my mystery quilt, and we'll go from there if it works out. Ooh, Robin's supposed to get some snow tonight. Right. And what was I saying? Yes, so I've been doing that paper piecing, and I started sewing on a t-shirt quilt yesterday. Do you want to see what the layout looks like? It's a little different than any t-shirt quilt that I've done. Actually, it's a memory quilt for my neighbor's dad, who recently just passed away, right? And so I'm doing a quilt for him. Tamara said, is there a place to find the pattern? The pattern for this is in the link to the description box. The patterns for the mystery quilt, I haven't started releasing yet. Let me pull up this t-shirt quilt because I saved a picture of it. Isn't that going to be so cool? So the little flying geese units, I'm doing paper piecing for. So I have a whole bin of his clothing, right? And half of the bin was pants, like khaki colored, dark khaki colored, navy blue, some jeans, black. All of the pants I'm doing in the large section of the flying geese units. And then the little blue parts of the flying geese unit, I got a light blue fabric, like a Carolina blue, because he loved the Tar Heels. I think that's the name of the team he loved, the Tar Heels. And that's their color. And so this is overall what it's going to look like. And then the gray areas will be his t-shirts. And then I have some t-shirts where the logos were too big to fit on the front. So I'm going to do a pieced backing and include the logos that are just way too big to fit on the front. And he loved to fish, and so I'm going to do some fish appliques in the border. And pictures. The dark blue little squares are going to be pictures. So I think that'll be a really nice quilt. I've already started sewing like the first column down. So yeah, I'm doing paper piecing all over the place. Susan said, go heels. He also loved, so that's football, right? Y'all, I'm not a sports person. The Tar Heels, I think, is football. And then he loved the Yankees, which I'm pretty sure is baseball. And so I'm going to include some of those logos on the front of the quilt where the pictures are going to go. I only have like 13 pictures, and so the other little squares are going to be the logos for the teams that he really liked. Kimberly, I saw your pictures of your fabrics yesterday on the Creative Crew. I thought that that was the perfect name for your quilt, a mint chocolate chip. That's perfect. Jackie, we love fishing too. Harlan went fishing, wow, not every single day before the weather turned, but maybe every other day, at least for a little bit. I think he just likes going out there. Baseball and football. Okay, I was right. It is lots of work, but I think it's going to go pretty quick. I've digitized the fish so I can stitch those with my embroidery machine. And actually the paper piecing is speeding up and making my flying geese units perfect. So I was just going to piece them, but the paper piecing, my flying geese units are turning out perfect. So yeah, that's the way I'm going to finish up that quilt. And then I think for the quilting design, I'm going to do fish. Am I buffering? Mimsy, I hope it's not me. Our internet has been super slow. And just here's an internet update for y'all. So we have Breeze Line, which we have been enduring since we moved in, right? And one of the reasons why I don't teach while I go live anymore. We got Starlink in addition to BreezeLine because my husband, Harlan, works from home most days. He goes in, which is like an hour and 15 minutes away, to his work a couple of days a week, but then the other days he works from home from his office. And he has not been able to get a good connection strong enough to do meetings and stuff. That's how slow our internet has been. So we got Starlink thinking that that would be faster, right? It's on most days when we check it, it's the same as BreezeLine, if not slower. We were like, this is going to be it. This is going to be what is going to save us with our internet. It's exactly the same. Thank you, so Terry. We're trying to save her. All right, so I'm not buffering. That's a good thing. Y'all want to see my fabrics that came in the other day? I thought it was pretty quick that they actually came one day last week. And I wasn't live last Friday to show you. We did a premiere. So yeah, let's take a look at them. Let me pull myself up. There we go. I had the screens all set up to do the video for that mug rug. So here we are. And this is one of the things that I did want to talk about. Like when I opened this up, I said this would be a good topic for us to talk about because this is my chocolate brown. And on the screen, it looks a tad bit brighter. Like in reality, it's a little bit darker than what you're seeing on the screen, but not much, okay? But on the computer screen, when I was on the website, Marshall Dry Goods, and I was picking out fabrics to order, this one looked more chocolatey. And when it came in, it was this, which I think will still work because I'm going to show you this compared to the other fabrics I got, right? But it's not quite as chocolate as I thought it was going to be, but it's still going to work. I'm going to use it. But like that's the downside of picking fabric online, isn't it? I know it looks orange, but in person it's more burnt orange. It's a little bright on the screen. So this is my the fabric that I ordered 4 yards for, right? Can y'all hear my chickens? They're right outside the window. This is my light pink. Let me move this out the way. My light pink and my dark pink. Now these were exactly the way that I thought that they would be. Like looking at the picture on the screen on the computer, this is no surprise to me. This was a little like it has more red in it than what I thought. But when you look at it like this, I don't think that that's horrible, and I'm still absolutely going to use it. Susan, you're working on a t-shirt quilt, and then you have a memory quilt. Ooh, Hawaiian. I hope you share pictures of that when you're done. Cheryl, the only way to get past the fear of using your scan and cut is just to do it. You have to just dive feet in or head in. Either way, and you just have to start messing with it. Pushing buttons, loading the mat, cutting stuff, all of that stuff. And the more you use it, the more comfortable you're going to be, and the more you're going to remember, what does this button do? What does that button do? You just have to do it. All the comments went through. I think somebody said if I could do a demo of the flying geese units. I don't have any of my stuff close by. My screen's doing something a little crazy, isn't it? I don't have any of my stuff close by, or else I would absolutely do that for you. And then this is it's a tone on tone, but mostly it's like a cream color. See that? It is printed. You can just make it out. So that's going to be my background. But I think this is going to be fantastic, don't you? So as soon as that package came, I was like, yes. And I opened it up and this fabric was right on top. And I was like, what is this? But that's what I ordered. It absolutely is. And I think it's going to work. Jackie said she's saved several fabrics, but too many to think about. I've done that before. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that one camera. Y'all, I've had technical difficulty after technical difficulty this week. Have you ever just had weeks like that? Let's see. Sheila said, who makes those fabrics? Well, on the brown one, there's nothing written on the seam allowance. The pink one was Andover Fabrics. 100 Years, created by Renee. I'm not going to try to pronounce the last name. Of Neil Love for Andover Fabrics. And I think that's the same on this one. Yep, Andover Fabrics. And then the cream one does not have anything written on it. I know some people have tried to go get these same exact fabrics and they're sold out. I think so too, Pam. I think they all complement each other very well, even though that brown is not chocolatey brown. So Terry said, I just checked and I have 18 fabrics in my Marshall Dry Good cart. Help. All right, so here's some help. Think stars and pick 2 colors. And then think accent. What accents those 2 colors? Debbie's thinking of going red, white, and blue and keeping it in her camper. That's awesome. Robin has lots of fabric in her cart too. I must have been shopping around or thinking about a whole bunch of different fabrics, because when I went to go order these, I had, I think it was 27 fabrics, 1 yard cuts, 27 different fabrics in my cart. And then I kind of remembered why they were in there. They were quilters calicos, which I love. And I think they must have been having a sale when I was going through the website, because I added a 1 yard cut of 27 different calico fabrics. I just deleted them all out of my cart because I think the sale was over. Sheila said your sundae will have caramel sauce instead of chocolate. Linda said, are we just going to cut a chunk off of our yardage when we need it for our templates? Basically, yes. So, okay, Linda, when we do the first video, the first clue, I'm going to have you cut borders first because this is what I have, right? And before I start cutting into it, I want to go ahead and make sure I just cut off those borders and set them aside. Now, I know lots of people are going scrappy, and so they might want to wait and pick border colors towards the end, right? And then do that. But if you're ordering yardage like I have, we're going to go ahead and just cut those border strips and set them off to the side till later. And then, yes, the way that I plan on cutting into this will be strips that are wide enough to accommodate the tracing templates for the pieces that we're piecing that week. So I think that'll allow the most usage from your yardage. And I'll give each week, I'll say, like, you know, this week I cut 2 strips that were 3.5 inches wide, and that was enough to cut so many pieces from it, right? Linda, I saw your email. I think it was an email that said you did find the pinks, but from somewhere else. So yeah, 3 weeks. Y'all, before you know it, that's going to be here. Time, it just seems like to me that time flies by so fast. Is anybody else thinking that the time is just going by so quick? Like, I remember when we were gearing up for Christmas. Did y'all realize that Easter is in March this year? Besides that, that's all I really have to talk about today. Oh, did y'all see I hung up my logo quilt behind me? I had hung it up, like, just tested it, but it kind of made my curtains funny, just clipping it onto the curtains there. And the curtains go back, like I don't use the curtains if I'm not doing a live or something, right? So I just tried to, like, pin it up there, and it kind of looked not like it's supposed to go there. So there she goes. Susan said it'll be Christmas soon. You know, that's crazy. Do you have a pattern for the paper pieced flying geese? I do. Whoops, here's one of my units right here. I haven't cut it out yet because I have one that I'm working from, but I printed off another one, and if I need it, I will cut it out. But there she is. That's the unit. She's 12.5 inches wide and 6.5 inches tall with a 12.5 inch cut t-shirt block, which I did just have enough logos that fit within that 12.5 inch space. But then I have like 9 or 10 logos that are just way too big. I'm going to just put them on the back. Faye, I have all the stuff to make some pecan sticky rolls. I'll probably do that like Sunday or Monday. Make a video about it. I just needed to get pecans, which you don't have to have. You could make them without it. and it would be just as delicious. But I like putting pecans on mine. So I had to go get more pecans. And last weekend we had company, Harlan's sister and her husband came from Vermont. So we've had kind of a busy week. And, but yeah, like Sunday or Monday, I'm going to film the video for the pecan sticky buns. I made some while they were here. So they got here last Friday evening. So during the day Friday, I made a loaf of bread and then I prepped the rolls, right? And what's really perfect about this is you could go ahead and bake them then, or I just covered them with saran wrap and put them in the fridge. And Saturday morning, all I had to do was take them out and let them sit while I like heated up the oven and put them in and made the sauce that goes like on top. They were phenomenal. They were really good. Mary Jo said, did you show the design for the t-shirt quilt to your client and get it approved? Or were you told to do whatever you want? It depends on my client, right? I've had some quilts where I don't do anything without them giving me like the okay as I go along. And that just seems to work out better for some clients, right? And then this particular client has given me full creative liberties. And, you know, a lot of times you try to explain to somebody who has no idea about the sewing or laying stuff out, and you try to explain to them what you're doing and even show them a layout, and they can sort of complicate the whole process, right? Because they'll ask you to do things that are way more far complicated just because they don't know, right? And but sometimes you get clients who are like, you know what you're doing and I trust you, and there you go. And those are my favorite kinds of clients. Like, I will make a quilt, and I have dealt with very hard clients and they end up loving their quilt, and I've dealt with really easy clients. This one is an easy client. So no, when I sat down with him, he told me about his dad. He told me his dad's interest, his hobbies, and said he wanted to add a couple pictures, and I just went from there. Oh, Evelyn, your kids are coming. Yay! Kathy's making banana nut bread. That sounds delicious. I come live at 12 noon, which I'm usually so hungry. I am. That sounds really good. Jackie, you're getting ready to go into your summer activities with all the planting, huh? We're doing some raised beds for our gardening stuff. So we have 2 of the raised beds done or built. We've got to get on the ball. Yeah, Susan said those are the best plants. I know. The ones that just say, you know what? Here's my stuff. Here's what my dad or my mom or whatever, or even if I'm making like a t-shirt quilt for graduation, here's what they like, and have fun, you know? And it does make the whole process much different. When you're dealing with a client that's a little bit, I don't want to say picky. Well, some of them are picky. But some of them just know exactly what they want and are a little bit more stringent about it, right? Those quilts tend to feel more like work, even though it is work. I like to have fun. And so this quilt is much more relaxed. And my next two t-shirt quilts are very relaxed. She's a very easy client to work for too. And so, yeah, I'm at work, but it doesn't feel like I'm at work. Mary Jo, I'm thinking so too, because we've observed our backfield for several months now. Can y'all hear my bird? He's going off. He must see something in the front yard that scared him. But with all of this rain, the ground is saturated and there are pools of water that collect in our backfield. And while we were going to just do a flat garden, right, just in the ground, but we've watched and it just stays so wet if it rains for a few days. And so, yeah, I think we're going to have a much better success with a raised bed. You can hear my bird. Sheila, I'll have to take a picture of them. I have to be really honest with you. I had no part in making these two beds. It's all Harlan. And actually, I didn't even know he was going to do it. Like, he just came in one day and said, I made two of the beds. I was like, wow, let me go see them. They're good size, too. That's all him. I can take no credit for them, but I'll take a picture of them and share them on Facebook. I feel funny not having anything to talk about. See, Lisa said, I went to the raised beds years ago and I do the square foot method. I can't till and other stuff anymore. See, I think that's one reason why Harlan really wanted to plant stuff right in the ground, right? And he had already started working on the garden so that he could just till it up using his tractor. But we just don't think that that's going to work. Like, it would just be flooded all the time. Lynn said, how long have you been making t-shirt quilts? Let me think. 2016 is when I got my business license, and it was about a year before that. So 2015? Yeah, I think it was 2015. Am I remembering correctly that one of your daughters making earrings when she was in high school? She did. Now she's working. I don't know that she has a lot of time, and she has a boyfriend and she works. I don't know if she's doing a lot of crafting stuff. Yeah, I wonder if I still have those right here. Hold on a second, y'all. I thought I had them right there. She made the cutest little Cheez-Its earrings. And I just saw them the other day. I know they're right here somewhere. Catherine said, what machine is that behind you? This is a Juki HZL F600. I do have a review video from when I got this machine. Like, maybe I should do an updated review video, but it's pretty good video here on my channel if you want to check that out. Sheila, yes, I'm going to the quilt show on Thursday. I'm glad you reminded me of that because I wanted to say Miss Jane and Miss Betty are going Thursday, so I changed the day. I was going to go Sunday, but I cannot just go and not see my girls. So I'm going to go Thursday, the 29th. Are you going? Will the mystery quilts patterns be available weekly? Yep. Yep, starting on the 8th. So I'm not going to release them the day before like I had done previously. The day of the video, when the video comes out, that's when you can get the pattern, and it'll be out indefinitely. You can come back and get it whenever you are ready to get started. Susan said, I've had a t-shirt quilt pin basted for days now. Quilting on my Juki is what I'm dreading. It's my least favorite part of making a quilt. That's why I got a long arm, Susan. I'm not even going to lie. When it transitioned from doing something, you know, on the side to a business and time is money, it would take me all day some days just to baste a larger t-shirt quilt, and I would be exhausted just from basting the quilt. I said, there's got to be a better way. That's how the long arm came in. I know exactly what you're saying. Kathy, what are we growing? We're gonna do, for sure, cucumbers. We're gonna do a trellis, string beans, beets and turnips, tomatoes, different kind, like regular tomatoes, and then like the cherry tomatoes, whatever. I want a whole bed of asparagus. Wow, we have a lot of different stuff planned out. Linda said, you have to have a license to make a t-shirt quilt? No, ma'am. If you do it as a business, you might have to check your area. Like where I lived before, doing it as a business, I had to have a business license. Here in Matthews, anything you make, grow, bake, catch, there's one other thing you don't have to have a business license for. So you make t-shirt quilts. I wouldn't have to have a business license for that here in Matthews. Now, because I have a YouTube channel, I have to have a business license here in Matthews, which is really weird. So it depends on where you live, and if you're doing it as a business, or if you're doing it as a hobby, right? But you don't have to have a license just to make a t-shirt quilt. Faye, it works for me. And it works really fast. The microwave proofing the dough works really fast. And I wish I had time to do it in the refrigerator. I might try it. I proved my cinnamon rolls in the refrigerator last weekend. You can tell him that. And it worked really well, but they stayed in the fridge overnight. Nadine, this is the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival. Ah, Susan, you have a cutie frame. You need to open that thing up. Let's see, Kathy. I do roasted asparagus. I even sometimes will steam it, but I love asparagus roasted with a little Parmesan cheese on it, a little bit of olive oil. Nita, I am. Sunday or Monday, depending on this weekend, we have to do another big batch of cat food. And that usually takes us all day because we can it. And that's a process. But probably Sunday or Monday. I just got the pecans for it the other day. Yeah, so the asparagus takes 3 years before you can harvest it. I heard that somewhere else too. Do you know in my hometown, Poquoson, Virginia, it used to, I don't know if it still does, it just grows out in the wild. Like you can just go on the side of the road and pick asparagus. I don't know if you still can or not. Faye said he'll be relieved. Yeah, tell him that. And then tell him I said, ain't nobody got time for that. I'm just kidding. But not really. I think if I were a better pre-planner in the kitchen, then I could prove my dough in the refrigerator. Ooh, creamed asparagus on toast. That sounds delicious. I could pretty much eat it any way that you make it. And I could eat, that's something I could eat every day and not grow tired of it. Do you have those kind of things that you could eat, you could have it every single day and not get tired of it? Sheila, down by the point. So if you drive down towards the point, it used to grow wild right along the sides of the road. Sorry, y'all. My lips are so chapped. Yeah, the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival. I'm going Thursday. If y'all want to do a lunch, probably around noonish, y'all know me. You'll find me in the lunchroom. That'll be the easiest way to meet up with me is around 12 o'clock in the lunchroom. That's where I'll be. Oh, asparagus and a quiche. Yes. I just made a quiche the other night. But I didn't have any asparagus. That sounds really good. Thank you, Tamara. I know one thing. I'll be glad when I can turn the heater off in here. Like my sinuses are all stuffy. My nose is constantly stuffy. Stuffy or running. My skin is all dry. My finger is cracked. That hurts. Ever notice like the smallest little tiny cut, paper cut, or just anything really tiny small hurts the worst? I have one on my pinky. It hurts. Sheila said, I want to get there early and see if I can catch the show special for the Aero chairs. What is an Aero chair? I don't know what that is. I don't know how early I'm going to get there because now I live kind of far away. Unless I get up really, really early and head out. Mimsy, we have one in our bedroom. And it works for the most part. For the most part. Mary, you had to resubscribe. I have to do that sometimes on channels that I watch too. Aw, Mary Jo, I can't wait for you to see this. That video is doing like so good. Y'all remember a couple weeks ago we were doing a live and someone said you shouldn't go outside of your niche because YouTube doesn't like that. I'm going to tell you, my biggest videos have not been quilting or sewing related. Like, it's made me reconsider my whole YouTube career. I think that video has like 60,000 views and it's only been like 3 weeks. A sewing video or a quilting video that I do takes like 4 years to, if it'll ever even get that many views. And then in 3 weeks, my bread video has that many views. Like, it's made me wonder, do I just need to just stay in the kitchen and make those kinds of videos? If I didn't love doing this so much, I would be highly considering that. I would. Ooh, you're doing the mystery in Amish style. I hope there's ways you can share pictures with me. I would love to see that. Oh, the Aero chair is supposed to be really good for sewing. My dining room chair isn't the best for quilting. I'm going to have to look into an Aero chair. Allison has one. I'm going to look into it. Laurel, you're planning your first t-shirt quilt on Inkscape. Yay! That's awesome. He's graduating next year. He said, I better get started. I have a feeling once you get started, you're going to go through it pretty quickly. It's the whole getting started. Once you start, I think you'll go through it pretty quick. Pam, I love my little Ninja oven. I use it for almost everything. Like, the only time I don't use it is if I cook in a bigger dish than what fits in there, which is very rare because usually it's just me and Harlan, or well, even with the kids coming over, like, it's big enough to do 2 loaves of bread. And it does an air fryer and the toaster, a broiler. I use it for everything. Nita said, never leave us hanging on the quilting. Yeah, I love it too much. Like, if views were all that mattered to me, I would totally just switch over and start doing cooking videos. Isn't that crazy? I think that's the scariest part, is cutting the shirts. Yep. She said, I'm nervous to cut the shirts. And for me, like, that would be just, that would hang me up in the when I first started making. Now I just, like, throw it down and start cutting off the arms, cutting across the top. Like, I don't even think about it. It's just second nature. But when I first started, I used to be so scared cutting into the shirt. I know exactly what you're saying. How long does it take me to make a t-shirt quilt? Well, it depends, right? I think it really depends. The 2 quilts I have coming up, they're a throw size t-shirt quilt, each one of them. And the blocks are all going to be the same size. There's no sashing. There's just the same size blocks all sewn together. I give it 2 weeks. I'll have both of those quilts done. From cutting the shirts, sewing the tops, quilting, and a binding. 2 weeks. This quilt that I'm working on right now has a lot more involved in it, right? I'm doing some paper piecing, a little bit of a design to it, right? I'm doing some embroidery on the embroidery machine. I'm sublimating photos. So it has a lot more other things going on with it. And I'm going to piece the back. So that's extra too, right? Extra time. So I think, you know, when you think about it, it really all depends on what your quilt is going to look like. Thank you, Tamara. I'm so glad you're here. Mary, that sounds beautiful. Are you on Facebook on the Creative Crew? If not, you can send me pictures through Etsy. Delia, to get in the mystery quilt, all you have to do is watch along. Now, I do have an intro video for that here on my channel, so go check out that video. I give all the specifics, and yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun with that. Millboro Quilter, South Dakota. Hello. You never heard of a Ninja oven? Check out my bread making video. I use my Ninja oven. Oh, great. So you can share pictures, Mary, of your quilt as we start doing all the pieces. I hope everybody does, because I just really want to see like all of your color combinations. It'll be fun once we actually get started doing the clues and seeing like what everybody else has picked. Lisa said, what is sublimation? I don't have anything right close by that I can show you, but it's my preferred favorite way of printing photos on fabric. Not just photos, I print other stuff too, but I have some videos here on YouTube showing you the process. Y'all know I've done like all different kinds of ways how to print photos on fabric, right? Well, a few years in, someone recommended to me, and I'm sorry it was so long ago, that I should look into doing sublimation. So I did. And yes, it's the best way for getting photos on fabric that don't fade. They don't fade. And they're super soft and silky in the quilts. They don't crack or peel. It's fantastic. The colors are so vibrant. Dana said, I'm working on a t-shirt quilt with applique on it. Yay! Got inspired by a pieced quilt I saw on Pinterest, and am exchanging the large pieced blocks for t-shirt blocks. That's awesome. I think Pinterest is like one of my go-tos. Like if I'm ever just drawing a blank for creativity, spend some time scrolling through Pinterest. do have a photo, but it's not my photo, so I don't really want to show it. It's right there. But I don't like sharing photos without asking permission. But yeah, check out sublimation videos here on YouTube. And I have a whole series, like if this were something you really wanted to get into doing, like if printing on fabric is like a passion for you and you really want to learn how to do it, I have a whole series that walks you through all the steps, the stuff you need to do it, and all that. Yep, the live chats, who knows when a commercial is going to come up. I wonder if it picks up where it left off and you're a little bit further behind where I actually am right this second when it does that. I have no idea how any of that works. So yeah, I'm trying to think, is there anything else going on? I don't think so. And I'm almost thinking like next Friday, we're going to do the same thing because I'm going to be so busy putting together this quilt. And I have a little project, like I've already made one. Do you want to see what it is? I am in the process of writing the pattern for it. But y'all know that I said I wanted to do like practical, useful things this year, right? So a couple weeks ago during a Patreon quilt retreat, I went to town making one of these and I wrote down all the specs for it as I was making it. But I have to write the pattern for it. I'm going to try to do that soon. But look at this. It's like a little tea pocket caddy thingy. Perfect for, okay, so I have a shelf in my kitchen for boxes of tea. But you know how if you keep your tea bags in a box that it came in and you get down to 1 or 2 little tea bags and you get a new box of tea, I only had so much room on the shelf, right? So I am always ending up with 1 or 2 little leftover bags. And this fits so perfectly, just hung up on the wall right next to it. Isn't that so cute? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 little pockets. So I'm working on the pattern for that. Susan, I think I'm just too swamped to make it down there. I wish I could. It picks up where you're at, and we miss what happened during the commercial. Well, see, fortunately, I'm just chit-chatting, so you probably didn't miss anything important. Yeah, for like your little stragglers, your ones and twosies of tea bags. Oh, it has a little hanger on the back like that. See? So eventually I'll get to writing that pattern, and I'm doing the video for the sticky buns. So I think next Friday we're just chit-chatting. Did you get your apron figured out? Which one? I haven't made an apron in a few years. Oh, that would make a good little present, wouldn't it? And I'm going to tell you, it really wasn't that hard to make. I had Does anybody have those, I think they're called Jolly Bars. You know how you have your layer cakes and your charm packs and your mini charm packs and your jelly rolls? I had a couple, I think they're called Jolly Bars. They're like 4.5 inches wide. And I think they're 10.5 inches tall. I forget exactly. I could be totally wrong. I had a couple of those and I'm like, I don't think I'm going to use them in any quilt project. So let me just start working. What can I make with them? And so I used them for this. Just because it gives you a whole bunch of different prints, just like a jelly roll does, you know. It gives you a whole bunch of different prints. But yeah, it was really easy to make, and I wrote down everything, so now I just have to like write out the instructions. That's the part, like Susan was saying, that the quilting of her quilt, that's the part she doesn't like the most. Writing the instructions. I love making this stuff up. It's writing out the instructions. I don't like that part. Dana said, have you ever made an over-the-door hanger organizer holder for Tupperware lids? No, but that sounds very useful. Let me write that down. Let's see. An over-the-door lid holder. I'll have to look into that. That sounds useful. Jolly Bars, yes. Jolly Bars are 5 by 10. I think they've taken like layer cakes and just cut them in half and renamed them. Lisa, you're a tea drinker too. Every night we have a cup of tea. And I always like trying new stuff, right? Or trying stuff that we haven't tried before. And then we have our staples that we always have, right? So like I tried this one. I really don't like it too much. The French vanilla. And it's decaf. Like I don't even know where this came from. But yeah. We have a cup of tea every single night. This one's really good. The Bigelow Mint Medley. That one's really good. Chamomile and lavender. I'm not really big on chamomile. So unless one of the girls, when they come over, wants it, it'll probably stay in this little thing until I throw it away. My Quilt Guild had a tea box challenge where everybody got a different box of tea bags and they had to make a quilt color coordinated to that tea box, and then at the quilt show they matched. Oh, that's awesome. That's a great idea. Mary said, could you use command strips to hang tea bag holders inside of a cabinet? Yes, and I was thinking 2 sizes, right? So this is my long one, and it fits perfectly right on the side of my shelf. Like it was planned or something. But 1/2 the size with just a few couple of pockets, right? I think I'm going to do 2 sizes. Candy, I'm not really big on the French vanilla. It says it's a classic combination of creamy vanilla and bold black tea. Now, I do prefer a black tea over a green tea. Harlan, he likes green tea. But I tend to favor the black teas. But there's something about this that I don't like. Maybe that it's decaffeinated. I just didn't like the flavor of it either. Thank you, Melissa. It's chilly in here. I feel like I have to sneeze. Yes, yes. But I tend to think that the vanilla is, like, it doesn't taste, to me, like a natural vanilla flavor. Do you know what I'm saying? Which makes sense. It says natural and artificially flavored. I don't know. Tamara said, "Forgive me for asking, as I am sure you always get this question." That's okay. How long have you been quilting? Let's see. My son was born in 1994. And he was, I believe it was 1997 or 1998. That's when I started. It was actually, my aunt was a lifetime quilter. And when she passed, my uncle let me come get several of her books and bags of her fabric. And as a thank you to him, I made a quilt. Strictly by reading in one of her books, which is not the way that I learn best. So, I haven't seen that quilt in many, many, many years now. And he's gone now, so who knows whatever happened to that quilt. But it would be interesting to take a look at it now, just to see and look at it. You know what I'm saying? But that quilt's probably long gone now. When cutting out appliques on the Scan and Cut, do you have fabric on the mat or heat and bond? Okay, so there's a couple different ways you can do it. And if you watch some of my videos from years ago, well, I say years, a few years ago, I had the Scan and Cut CM350, which I had until recently. I gave that to my daughter, and I have the SDX 325 now. I had, even when I gave it to my daughter, she inherited the original mat that came with that machine. It had no stick left to it at all. And to me, that was perfect for cutting applique. And I would stick the fabric on the mat. I would iron on the heat and bond to the back side of the fabric. I would take the paper off the heat and bond and stick it on my mat so that the fabric was facing up and the heat and bond was actually touching the mat. But I had to tape everything down really well because there was hardly no stick on the mat. And so when it cut it out, the pieces, if I lifted up the mat, would just fall off, right? It did not pull the stickiness from the heat and bond. It didn't stick to the mat at all. If you had a sticky mat, I would never say to do that, because what's going to happen is when you pull the fabric up, all of your heat and bond is going to stick to your mat, and you might as well buy a brand new mat at that point. I mean, you can get it off, but it's so much work. So now when I got a new machine, I think it was Nita said, leave your paper on and put your fabric down like that. Some people will put the fabric down with the heat and bond sticking up or facing up. A lot of people cut it out that way. I prefer to stick my fabric down now with the paper still on, the paper's touching the mat, the sticky part of the mat, and my fabric is facing up. That's what I like to do. But I always say we're all different, and if you like doing it one way versus another, then that's how I would do it. Sheila said, I can serve this tea to someone who doesn't know any better. Yeah, and then they go home and they say, I had tea over at Lisa's house and it was horrible. Don't drink tea when you go to Lisa's house. It's disgusting. I think I'm just going to throw that tea bag away. Mary, there might be some Facebook groups that you can join that you could take pictures of fabrics. A long time ago, I had a client and she brought me a quilt. I forget where she said she had gotten the quilt. I think she said she bought it at, like, you know how you can go to, not antique stores, what do they call it when, estate sale. She had gone to an estate sale and she bought a quilt. And she brought it to me and she wanted to know how old the quilt was and how valuable the quilt was. And I was like, I don't know. I don't have any idea. But I will try and figure that out for you. So I took it and I took pictures of it and I posted it on a Facebook page. I think it was a vintage quilt Facebook page. And do you know that that quilt was only made in the 80s? And it was sold like at Sears and Roebuck, or the Sears store. And they made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those quilts. And actually people ended up sharing pictures of the quilts they still had that looked exactly like it. So the fabrics were made to look old, but they were from the 80s. And so the person who brought me the quilt was very, very disappointed because I think she paid a lot of money for this quilt, but it came from Sears in the 80s. But check out Facebook and look up vintage quilt Facebook groups and join some of them because you might be able to share pictures of fabric. And I have found that those kinds of groups on Facebook are really helpful. Ooh, Liz, you just got the SDX 325. I'm not sponsored by Brother or Scan and Cut, but I absolutely love that machine. I loved my older CM350. She was noisy and she was much slower, but I loved that machine too. Candy says, I still can't get my Cricut Explorer Air to cut fabric. It claims it can on a fabric mat with a fabric blade that's been interfaced, but I've had no luck. See, I have absolutely no experience with the Cricut at all. Candy, if you're on Facebook, maybe join some Cricut Facebook groups. they might be able to help you. Melissa, you have the same one and you love it. Yes. I'm going to tell you though, because Candy just said a lot of people that do a lot of fabric cutting for applique and whatnot love the scan and cuts. They do. And, you know, I like giving fair feedback. So on Creative Crew, and I forget who posted it, someone was considering buying a scan and cut. I think their husband was going to get them a present, and she was looking at cutting machines, and so she asked about the scan and cut. And, you know, in the comment section of that post, I read a couple of people who bought scan and cuts, and they've either never used it or they didn't like using it. I tend to think sometimes when I read that I have to also consider that a lot of people get these machines and then they don't use them. Do you know what I'm saying? And so if you were to be asked about it, yes, it's a waste of money because I don't use it. I use mine all the time, y'all. You know, if you've watched my videos, you know, like applique is one of my things. I love applique. I'm surprised we're not doing applique in the mystery quilt this year. I'm working out of my wheelhouse, right? But projects, I love applique. I use my machine all the time. It has earned its money worth 4 times over in the amount of time it saves me cutting applique, right? But not everybody does that all the time. So it kind of would be a waste of money getting a cutting machine if you're not going to use it. Like, I would tell you not to get it. And then some people get these machines and it's just too much, right? They're super intimidated by it, and I get it. And they're scared they're going to break it, and I get it. And until they get past that and actually start using it and learn how it works, I can see how you would think that it wasn't worth the purchase. And they can be intimidating, right? And the only way you're going to get past that is by using it. And, yeah, but I mean, I like giving fair reviews and fair judgment, you know, calls on stuff. And I have read that, a few people have purchased a machine and they don't use them. There are AQS quilt appraisers. There's going to be quilt appraisers at the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival too, or at least I know they used to do that. I don't know if they still do. Sherry Rose, you just printed the cross mug rug and you have not sewn in over 20 years. I hope you have so much fun. That's a little good project for just coming back into it. It has a good amount of little pieces, but not a whole bunch. That is probably the perfect project for you to come back into sewing. I hope you have so much fun with it. Jackie said, for the Cricut, try checking out Jennifer Maker. She has a ton of very helpful videos on different versions of Cricut machines. That is so good to know. Thank you for sharing that. I think you're right, Candy. I think, you know, if you don't like technology, none of the cutting machines are going to be your friend. It doesn't matter if it's a Scan and Cut or a Cricut or a Silhouette. Someone, I didn't even know, and now I won't remember it, but there's another cutting machine, I think it's made by Janome. I didn't even know that that existed. I just learned that the other day because someone sent me a question asking if I could help with their cutting machine, and I forget what it's called, but it's made by Janome. If you don't like technology and sending files from computers to other machines or any of that stuff, if you don't know about downloading files and moving them from one place to another, then you're not going to like and enjoy using any kind of cutting machine, right? And you might just find that it steals your joy from doing the whole project, and then tracing by hand and cutting out by hand is the way to go, and you stay happy and enjoy the process, right? If you get frustrated easily with technology, I would say don't do it. Sheila said, sometimes people buy because they have fear of missing out. That's a real thing, too. That's a real thing. Black & Decker makes a cutting machine, too, designed for more bigger signs. Do you know, before I got my Scan and Cut, like, I'm from the old school. Like, I started using Inkscape way before I started making quilts and stuff because I'm an airbrushed artist. Did you know that? I used to airbrush motorcycles and bicycles and stuff in my spare time. It was one of my 3 jobs I had all at one time, right? And I used to work, after I got off of work, I used to go to my uncle's house, and he used to do restoration on old bicycles and motorcycles that had been in accidents or got dinged by a rock or whatever and needed a paint job, right? And so he called me up and he was like, do you need some work? And I was like, yes, I'm broke. So after working at one job all day, every other evening when the kids were with their dad, I would go to my uncle's house. And he was restoring this bike, and I don't even remember how old it was. It was very old. And it had this metal piece that covered the chain, and it was painted with like rockets and space stuff on it, but most of the paint had worn off. And he was looking to buy graphics, like a rub-on or a sticker that could replace that, but of course it was like custom, or it was so old he couldn't find it anymore. So he was like, I need you to recreate the artwork on this piece for this bicycle. I was like, okay. So he bought a we called it a vinyl cutter, and it was humongous. It was like this long. It was on a stand all by itself, right? I had no idea how to use it, but because he bought it, I was invested in learning how to use it to make stencils so I could airbrush this artwork on this piece. And that's how I found Inkscape, because we couldn't figure out why the vinyl cutter wasn't working. It works in vector images. I had to draw out vector images in Inkscape. So I had to learn all of this stuff in order to run that cutting machine. So once I learned that, my friend bought me a smaller one, and I'd say it was maybe 20 inches long. And before my scan and cut, I used to use that to cut out my applique, but it wasn't made for that. So then I got a scan and cut. I have not done any airbrush work, Candy, in several years now. I was just thinking about that the other day because I was watching, what was she making? It was a stuffed bunny or it was a bear. Out of fabric, a stuffed bear. And do you know she used her airbrush to do little details of that stuffed bear? I was like, I gotta get my airbrush out. Next thing I know, I'm gonna have y'all airbrushing some stuff on a quilt. Yeah, we sat there, and I would tell you, I would get to his house like at 6:30 in the evening, and we would work till 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd have to drive home, go to sleep, and get back up early in the morning to go to my real job. But we worked, I know it was like 2.5 weeks. We couldn't figure out why the images I was trying to get to cut out, the cutter would not move at all. And I kept reading about vectorizing. You have to vectorize it. And we would joke about it, right? And he would call me up and he would say, have you vectorized anything lately? And I'd be like, I called myself the vectorizer. And then I realized what I was doing wrong. And I don't know about that, Nita. I dabble in a little this and a little bit of that, but a master of none of it. I'm going to tell you, Candy, I wish I had the energy that I did back then, but I think my energy came out of necessity. Like, I was thinking about my hair color the other day. You don't just wake up with this hair color. Like, you have to earn it, right? I worked a full-time job and 2 part-time jobs. And you don't just earn, you can't buy this hair color in a bottle. This is years of stress. And I was thinking about that the other night because sometimes I'll say, well, I'll do that after supper one night, like stuff in here, right? Maybe I'll come in after supper and I'll cut out some photos for an order, or I'll cut out some logos for that shirt, that quilt I'm working on. And after I eat, I think there is absolutely no way that I'm going in there. I cannot even hardly keep my eyes open. But back in the day, so I shared custody with my husband, right? So because of his work schedule, the kids were with me one day and they were with him one day. I know that sounds crazy to most people, but that's what we did for 10 years. And it worked for us, okay? But so every other day when they were with him, I worked. I'd work my full-time job, I'd get off of work, and drive right to my next job, where I either worked at a coffee shop for my cousins, or I worked for my uncle, depending on if I was working at the coffee shop or not. And some nights, I would work that job and go home and I would draw portraits that I would sell on eBay. Like, I was a broke mom with little kids. I was all the time working. And then I opened up my own coffee shop And I worked from like 4 o'clock in the morning till 12 o'clock at night. Yeah. I think my energy level then was just driven out of necessity. Millboro Quilter. I'm so glad you like that mug rug. The cross mug rug is an awesome project. Patsy, I think you're gonna, the more you use it, and that's what I always say, like the more you use your machine, the more comfortable you're gonna be, and the more you're gonna actually enjoy using it. Like when I first started using those machines, it was stressful for me, right? But then as you learn it, it's like with anything. The more you learn it, like I can come over here and just flip the switch. It's second nature on this machine and just start sewing. But when I first got it, I was like, I don't know if I'm using the right settings, and I don't know if I'm pushing the right buttons, and but now it's just like walking, right? Cheryl, I'm going to pull up the email address. There you go. Tamara, my current scan and cut is the SDX 325. Thank you. It could be the hair color or the lack thereof hair color. Right. Melissa, that's really, I think that's smart. You have to give yourself a work day. 11 to 3, that sounds good. 4 days a week. What you can find yourself doing is just wearing yourself out, right? Melissa, was it you that did a video a while back ago talking about spoons? And like you have so many spoons for the day. Was that you? I think about that all the time. Some days I have more spoons than others these days. I think about that very often. Using the coloring books. That's smart. Have I done a tour of my sewing room recently? So once I unpacked everything I did here at this new house, and it's still exactly the same, except that I switched my work tables from one direction to the other. So before, you would see some fabric behind me, but that arrangement was doing a number on my shoulder. The sewing arrangement that was over there, I did a binding on a quilt, and I really messed up my shoulder, which is still healing. So at that point, I moved everything. So now when I'm doing a binding, it has a table, the quilt has a table to rest on, because I can't do that anymore. But other than just swapping these tables around, everything else is exactly the same. That video is here on my channel. That was you. I think about that all the time. I just flipped things around. What I didn't want was my sewing machine in the middle of my like U shape, because I do a lot of other stuff during the day besides just sewing, right? So in my U shape, I like to be able to go here, here, and here, right? Here's my scan and cut, my printer, pressing board, cutting board, sewing machine. If I would have stayed on that side of the room, The only way it would have worked was to have my sewing machine right here in the middle to give me a table to hold the weight of the quilt, right? And I just didn't want the sewing machine in the middle. So it took me like 2 days just to swap everything around. I would tell you, Laurel, I call it silver. I've had silver in my hair since I remember in the 7th grade. Jared Holloway was sitting in the seat behind me in class, and all of a sudden I felt a pain in the back of my head, and I turned around and he was holding a silver hair. 7th grade. He probably doesn't even remember who I am, but I remember that. And so I've been prone to it. How old are you when you're in the 7th grade? I don't remember, but by the time I was 18, I was coloring my hair and did up until I colored my hair when I first started dating Harlan. And I transitioned out of that while we were dating. When we got married, so when we got married, I had short spiky hair, except for a long section of bangs, which came down like this. And I would color my hair, but I started to transition my bangs first. So I had a streak of silver in my bangs, which was very hip. And then from that, I just started not coloring my hair. And short hair is much easier to transition than long hair, right? So keeping my hair short. Y'all, I have to cut my hair like every 2 weeks. And so it was very easy just to transition right over. Sheila. That's how I know that you live around here, is you know the name Holloway. Well, y'all, I think we have just chit-chatted. I started with only a couple little things to show you, and we have chatted for an hour and 38 minutes. I reckon I should go sew a little bit on this quilt this afternoon. Patreon members, if you're watching, tonight we're going to do our little mini retreat. I think it starts at 8 p.m. I'm calling it Fun Friday. 8 to 10. If we're still having fun at 10, we'll keep going. But yeah, I'll post a link on the Patreon page tonight. We're not doing anything. We're just hanging out. That's why it's just called Fun Friday. Candy. Use a purple shampoo. It'll tone it so that it's more silver. It has been great, Robin. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me. I know these just chatting videos, it's not for everybody, but I love to hear what y'all been up to. I like hearing feedback on different stuff, and sometimes it's good to just have a day where we're not, focused on doing something, and we just have time to catch up. I'll tell you, when I was coloring my hair, because it grows so fast, and mine is so prominent, like, look at that. I would color my hair today, and by Sunday, you could see all of my roots. So yeah, First, I didn't have time for that. And second, I didn't have money for that. So, there we go. All right, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. All the links are down in the description box, right? So if this is your first time here and you haven't joined us over on Creative Crew, it's a fun place to be. And the link for my Etsy is down there too. So if you don't do Facebook at all, which I know there are a few of you who don't do Facebook at all, but if you have stuff you want to share with me, that's a great place to send me a message over there. And so don't forget that as we're approaching, I think we have 3 weeks before the mystery quilts. Lots of people have been sharing their pictures of the fabrics they've selected, so that's a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm going to go check on our chicken, see if Harlan needs any help removing hay from the coop, and then probably sew a little bit on this quilt that I'm making. I will see y'all next week, okay? And I'm going to go eat some lunch. Bye, everybody.